Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HonorCon 2016 Marketing and Advertising Analysis Brief. My name is Peter Gordon, and I'm going to be covering on today's agenda an overall assessment of our advertising program. I'm going to be getting into talking about some of the series that we designed to support our program. We're going to go a little bit into the survey results from HonorCon 2016. And from there, we're going to step into issues and recommendations and the way ahead. First, we're going to start off with the overall program assessment, starting with the social media breakdown. We made a lot of progress in growing our social media footprint this year. We went up 327 followers on our Facebook page. Twitter, we almost doubled the number of people that watch us. All of this is good stuff. In the future, we need to continue to work to grow our presence on Instagram, Google+, Tumblr, Pinterest, and all of the areas, all of the social media places where we currently don't have a footprint. Some of them are more difficult than others. Some of them take very specialized content, but it is in our best interest because that footprint will help us get people in the door next year. Twitter is quite possibly the best bullhorn that we have for getting information out there quickly. It's great to use Twitter to funnel people to various things going on, and it's a very effective and cheap way to get the word to as many people as possible all at the same time. The only bad part about Twitter is that your content can get lost in the noise if you're not careful. Facebook is very handy, and it remains the mainstay of what we do. Most of our followership is on Facebook and uses Facebook. It's a great place to maintain the focus and put out really good content and get a good idea of how people think about it. It gets you feedback. We need to maintain and continue to get people to follow us on Facebook. My personal goal was to attempt to reach MantaCon's 1,500 person followership. We went a long distance towards that goal this year. Maybe next year we'll get lucky. All right, next. Here I did a comparison between HonorCon 2016 and 2015 gross income. The red line is HonorCon 2016. The black line is HonorCon 2015. As you notice, they're fairly similar, at least in behavior, but we started well above the point where we did at 2015. And I believe that several factors assisted in keeping us far above the income point which we reached. HonorCon 2016 made $16,785 in gross ticket sales, which is a more than 52% jump in growth from the $10,980 that was earned by us in 2015. I think that the factors that help sales include the starting sales. Before we even stopped HonorCon 2015, we were selling tickets for HonorCon 2016. I think that the special events and the name recognition for Claudia Christian made a big impact on our reach and on who paid attention to our message. And I think that the chart pretty much speaks for most of that. And next we're going to talk about where I took over. This chart was normalized so that I could get a decent comparison between the behavior of our customers from HonorCon 2015 to 2016. What I did was I basically set the numbers to 0 on the day at which I took over advertising, and then started that income line upwards. As you can see, we made pretty significant ground. The average daily sales prior to me taking over was about $25.77 a day. The average daily sales after I took over was approximately $120.77 a day. Last year, the average daily sales over the same time period was about $68.34 a day. The total sales after I took over comes out to around $9,741 gross dollars, while the same period of the time last year earned $5,603. I think that this goes a long way to showing that even a halfway decent advertising program can make a big difference in the amount of income that you're going to earn. Here's our budget breakdown. And now Martin gave me $300 as the base starting budget, and as you can see, we have more listed here. I also included all the donations that were made, some by Martin, some possibly by others, as far as boosting our Facebook page and the various things to help decrease the throttling which Facebook does to our reach. Total gross growth in sales during the advertising period was approximately $4,200 over what we did on an equivalent time last year, which, comparatively speaking, you made about $10.75 for every dollar that we spent on advertising. Next, I'm going to cover some of the series and lessons learned with them. First up is the Armada series. I made 9 spots, and one was released per week. As far as I know, there were no issues with this. We sat down with the actual publishers of Armada to make sure that we didn't step all over their brand. Agreements were put into place, and we put this out there. There were no issues to my knowledge. However, we never got any feedback from the Armada tournament holders. So I have no idea if this was effective in getting people to come and play the game. I have no idea if the end result was what it was meant to be. However, this did give us the opportunity to use Star Wars related hashtags and spread out our market share to include people who would have probably otherwise not heard of us. Next up is the author quote series. I made 2 sub-series for this. These were originally meant to take advantage of the hashtags, the Monday Motivation and the Wednesday Wisdom stuff. Again, we're trying to spread out our market share and gain information, get that information out to people who wouldn't otherwise hear about us. We only had 1 complaint where a quote was used that featured profanity. Pretty much went through the remaining quotes and called out anything that was similar, but other than that, there were no real issues with this series. I believe it was effective. Sales went up. I think this was a good choice. We might want to try it again next year. This was one of our better series. The Big Cat Rescue folks liked it. However, we ran into some issues. It was originally intended to be 2 sub-series with a release once per week for each. One was primarily informational, dealing with the auction. The other was primarily to get people's attention for Big Cat Rescue in a less serious method. One focused on memes, the other was a little bit more serious. It also helped us capitalize on kitten and cat themed hashtags, which allowed us again to broaden that market share that would ordinarily not have seen what we put out there. We had to pull this about 2 weeks before the start of the convention because a lot of the content did not feature Big Cat Rescue's cats themselves. What we learned from Big Cat Rescue is that apparently several watchdog groups keep an eye on the advertising related to them and basically attempt to shut them down based on them attempting to get funding for cats that they don't necessarily have there. The lesson learned is that we basically need to coordinate better with the sponsors and event coordinators and charity folks for next year so that we can produce product for them that meets their expectations and accounts for any special circumstances or needs they might have. The Claudia Christian series was possibly one of our strongest runners. This appeals to mainly to the Babylon 5 niche group. Her name recognition, I think, went a long way toward improving our sales. Results were spotty at best. We got a little bit of input here and there. This was basically reposting pictures of her roles in various video formats and attempting to get audience participation in trying to guess what those roles were, what those movies and TV shows were. Next, we have the DragonCon sales series. This one had the most immediate effect, therefore I consider it the most successful. As you can see, you can attribute about $1,239 in gross sales to this event. We need to continue to utilize sales of this nature. I think that one of the lessons learned from this is that we need to look at our ticket pricing, and we may even want to start at a higher bracket in our ticket pricing so that we can give people a perceived rebate on tickets that we sell over time. That is to say that rather than start at $35 or $45 to begin with, we start with a flatter curve and say start at $50 or $55 for our lowest ticket, and then we have sales that bring it down, or special rebates or stuff that we can get out there that will give you a $10 rebate or a $5 rebate to give people that sense of immediacy and that sense of I'm getting something, I'm getting money off or an advantage over others. This is something that we need to discuss the pros and cons of, but I think it is a worthy idea for future concepts, given how well this sale went. Another factor with that is that the more conventions and the more events that we can piggyback our name onto without losing ourselves in their sales language, the better, because DragonCon is immensely popular. This allowed us to use hashtags and various other items that got our name out there in connection with DragonCon, which is not a bad thing. The more people that know about us, the more people we can get to come and buy tickets. Next up, we have the Komei-juku series. This is one of the original series that I came up with in our first round of discussions. It was once again a once per week spot. I don't know what effect this really had. However, this led to the development of the panels and presentation series that's coming up next. This was our largest series, and quite frankly, I bit off more than I could chew with this. I believe that I made product for roughly 75% of the panels and the presentations and the convention in order to get the word out there regarding things that were going to be covered. Essentially, this grew out of one of the complaints that I heard last year where people just didn't know what was happening at the convention. There were certain panels, there were certain things that people just didn't find out about because they weren't included somehow. And I sought to ameliorate that by attempting to make products that would go out on Facebook and various other media to show exactly what panels were going to be, what content was going to be covered. This allowed us to approach a number of audiences that I don't believe otherwise would have heard about us. We ran into issues with copyright with this, and it was not completed because, quite frankly, there were just so many panels, and I have to admit that I just did not have enough time to keep or enough oomph to keep building product all the way up until the end. The another issue that this particular series brought up for us was the copyright thing. I would like to recommend that we get some kind of legal consultant on the con chair committee who will review product before it goes out. We had a system in place to get artwork reviewed by the con chairs before I shot it out there, and I intend to put in systems in place dealing with where I get the artwork in question and why I'm using it for next year, so that we no longer have this issue. When I say that we had copyright violation issues, we may not have actually violated anyone's copyright, but the accusation that we did came up. So, like I said, next year we're going to do a little bit better bookkeeping as far as the artwork is concerned. One thing I do intend to keep is I do intend to keep engaging with the people that create this artwork and attempting to get free use artwork from the various sources that I found this year. Deviant art artists were pretty instrumental in this entire process. One of our first series, the Warhammer 40K thing, this was meant to push their tournament. I thought it was extremely successful in that it gained a lot of audience participation over the course of advertising. I found these pictures with the help of the Warhammer 40K folks. We had permission to use these pictures. However, we're back to the whole copyright thing, and that I did not keep good enough paperwork in order to prove that. So next year, again, we will do a little bit better. Again, the proof of concept worked great. We just need to work on some of the background stuff. All right, here's some of the series that I don't necessarily have a whole lot of graphics for. The Rampant Manticore series was extremely heavy on text. I'm not sure if it had a whole lot of effect beyond being informative. Didn't have any graphics. Consisted mostly of posts explaining what the Rampant Manticore contest was all about and what the various sections of it were. The costume contest was pretty much a thorn in my side from the beginning. Lack of information pretty much made it impossible to advertise it directly, so we had to settle for reposts that had a cosplay and costume theme and mentioning the contests in those. Proof of concepts. Our first sweepstakes was, well, I rate it somewhat successful. It certainly helped to prime the DragonCon sale, which was a week later. It only made about $390, but I believe that it suffered from a number of defects. For one thing, we had no tiered prize system. We only were giving away a ticket. I'm surprised we got the attention that we did based on that. Next year, I recommend that we have tiered groups of prizes that are themed appropriate to the convention, that aren't necessarily all Honor Harrington themed, but at least cover all the major groups and all the audiences that we would like to pull in. This at least primes them to come and participate on the chance that they'll win something that they care about, even if they don't necessarily want a ticket to the convention. reason why I don't think that's one of the reasons why I don't think it was particularly successful from an income viewpoint. In a similar vein, by the time we finished the by the time we started the second sweepstakes and asked our audience to contribute more than simply registering for prizes, I believe the available audience was still mostly TRMN, and thus the Facebook videos I created only reached an already saturated market. Pretty much everyone that saw it already had a ticket that they either bought or whatnot. I think that the video concept has a lot of merit, and we'll discuss that more later. Again, tiered prizes probably would have made a difference in this. All right, let's go into the survey results. As you know, we pulled a survey. We did a survey over the course of HonorCon 2016 and made the survey entries a method by which people could win a ticket to next year. We only got about 26 respondents, which equals about 8% of the total population. As you can see, 85% of those were TRMN members, and we rate really high given what we've got. We did a lot better than people thought we would on expectations. Satisfaction was really high. We rated about an 8.8 on the scale of 1 to 10, where 10 was highest with regard to whether respondents would recommend our convention to others. I think that based on this, we're doing really good things. But the thing that concerns me is that we only got 8% of the total population of con goers to respond. Given that, I recommend that we utilize the mailing list created by Eventbrite to both thank them and invite them all to comment through SurveyMonkey. I can produce a survey to do this research, no problem. In fact, I plan on discussing more about market research later. Here are some of the comments of note on our surveys. I think the things that I'd like to bring attention to is the Whova app was either not helpful or incompatible with my cell phone. This appeared on multiple respondents' comments. I think that there's a number of ways that we can go about this. I don't know if we've already paid for the Whova app for all eternity or if we can find something else, but we need to broaden our ability to communicate changes in schedule to the folks who are going to our convention. I know that a lot of people are going to have suggestions on this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Another one that concerned me was we had at least one respondent say that there were no day passes. I know for a fact there were, so I'm not sure who was telling them that. That's something we probably should look into. Other than that, most of these are pretty much things that have been covered by others up to this point, or fairly understandable. All right, here we come to the after action review comments, issues, and recommendations. Something I discovered over the course of working this convention is that there's a tendency to over-compartmentalize information. After going through the headache of getting access to Eventbrite through Jack and a number of other places, this comes up over and over. I was never informed of pretty important dates and deadlines that would have made a real difference with regard to how I would have structured advertising, especially the end date for room nights. That cutoff could have been handled a little bit differently from an advertising perspective had I known about it ahead of time. Ticket sale cutoff dates are important. When the price changes, the advertising has to change appropriately. not only to tell people how much it costs, but to improve sales up to that point. You can give people a sense of immediacy. Hey, you know, this is about to get $10 more expensive. Get this stuff while it lasts. That kind of thing. I believe that it's extremely important that we keep everyone apprised of dates and times, and hell, our priority is room nights and ticket sales. We need to find some way to keep everyone on track with and knowledgeable about how many room nights we have and how many tickets we have sold. Those are our goals. Granted, making sure that the convention runs smoothly is also that, but I think that it helps motivate people when the overarching goal that they can really affect over in their own way prior to the start of the convention is right in front of them. A major issue for us is that the website just was not managed well. I would also like to point out what I've highlighted there, that the website is not mobile friendly either. And in 98% of people in this day and age utilize their cell phones to do everything. If smartphone owners do all their buying and selling over that stuff because they may not be in front of your classic computer. We also need control of the HonorCon website directly. The gentleman from Bucom that was assigned to the task simply did not have time to make the changes that we needed in a timely manner. Now, don't get me wrong, some changes were made, and I'm appreciative of that, but either not all of them or not completely. I think a key limiter in how well we draw sponsorship for our convention is that our sponsorship levels are too limited in how they are presented. When I discuss this, what I'm talking about is that we have 3 tiers, and they all discuss getting a table. They all discuss certain things that are involved with, okay, I have an advertising spot in your catalog. I have an advertising spot on your schedule, whatnot. This is entirely too limited a way to look at sponsorship from my viewpoint. We should be talking to these people about how many spots of advertising they want to buy from us. How many times do they want to be mentioned on social media over the course of being advertised? How close a relationship do they want to have when it comes to advertising? Do they want us to do the advertising for them? These are all things that can affect how much money they need to pay us in order to earn a sponsorship level and special treatment and listings. There are people that are probably quite willing to buy sponsorships within our convention, but don't necessarily want a table from us. And I think that if we produced a menu of options that people could buy with regard to sponsorship, and then depending on how much money they ultimately spent, give them that sponsorship level and that extra attention, that might be a better way to go about it. Drawing in other audiences. In my discussions with Diane and a few other people, it was brought to my attention that we would like to draw in other audiences. She mentioned anime, the folks that are into fairies and fantasy, etc. Well, the primary methodology that I have been shown with regard to attracting these folks has been we're just going to change how our graphics look, and hopefully they will look at that and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to come like a moth to a flame because it just looks good. Well, this is roughly analogous to a situation I faced in Iraq. where we were told to advertise all the good works of the Iraqi government. Well, the problem was the Iraqi government never did anything, so I had nothing to talk about. Content. Content is where you're going to attract people. You can make anything you want prettier. You can change how it's colored. You can make it the most gorgeous advertising on the face of the planet. But if you don't have what people want in your convention, you are not going to attract the market share. Last one, no market research driving our brand changes. Now, I understand that we want to change our look for 2017 because it's the 10th anniversary. But why are we making the changes that we're making? Have we done the market research? Currently, it seems that from discussions that I've had and from observations that I've made, we currently favor a marketing by what I call the good GFI approach. We don't get any unbiased feedback from our market to guide us. And let me tell you, approaching people at a convention by building up their expectation for something cool and then taking their affirmations is not market research. In order to build good advertising, the ad copy must be appealing to the market share you're attempting to sell it to. For that to happen, you need their input in the form of pre-testing for your advertising product. Ergo, we get honest, unbiased opinions from them regarding proposed changes with product testing via surveys and market research. We need to start hitting people up throughout the TRMN and throughout all of our mailing lists. We set up surveys through Eventbrite with these graphics, with the graphics that we want to use, and we get their honest opinion of what they think it looks like and how readable it is, what the effect the colors have on them, the whole 9 yards. There are pretty specific issues that I already see with this, but in the end, it doesn't matter whether I think this looks good. It doesn't matter whether the con chairs think this looks good. It doesn't matter whether anybody but the market share thinks that this is effective. We cannot expect to market to our market share with only one product. We need to be able to tailor these products to the various market shares that are out there that are looking to buy our tickets. And let's talk about the way ahead. This is all tentative ideas, and we bring back my pet, what a recurring theme so far, market analysis. Martin tells me that we have a SurveyMonkey account. I am basically saying right now that we need to start burning up all the money on that account. We need to utilize SurveyMonkey in our email lists to get people's opinions on the posters, artwork, our website. Go back, set up a survey for the convention. Just like we had the survey for prizes at the convention, we need to invite them to continue to give their input to us in a meaningful manner. This creates a great relationship between our market and us. As long as we are responsive to that market, they will continue to buy our product. And how we show that we're responsive to them is that we continuously ask for their opinion. I don't see a whole lot of opinions being asked. And unfortunately, given the time that was allotted for the program that I built for HonorCon 2016, I'm just as guilty at the moment of advertising by GFI. We're just fortunate that all of our interests, that we are a portion of the target audience that we're trying to market on, and all of our interests somewhat match. With the tools that with the SurveyMonkey tools and some actual market analysis, we should be able to get some direction with regard to our advertising product that is scientifically measurable rather than just anecdotal. Part of this process, and one of the things that has been mentioned to me, is that we may want to set up a tiered information system. And what I mean by that is that, for example, some multi-level marketing companies create sales by setting up specialty groups, especially private Facebook groups that encompass different levels of purchase membership. I suggest we do the same thing since we have different levels of tickets. And what they do is they use a kind of a benefit trickle-down economy where they will make special offers to one group, and if that group doesn't buy it, they will then offer what's left to the next group and so forth. And it utilizes a bunch of different psychological effects in order to help drive sales. This is used quite effectively by a number of marketing groups, especially the tiered marketing folks. We need to do a little bit of talking about our market share and target audience. We have 3 significant target audiences, as far as I know, that our event revolves around. The first one is TRMN members. The second one is authors and writers, and the third one is gamers. I'm willing to bet that our convention membership consists of around 90% TRMN members, which is good. However, if we wish to grow the membership in other areas and to develop an attraction for other market shares, as we've discussed before, we need to do the market analysis and change our programming accordingly. Some thought needs to go into these changes because we need to maintain the market share we already have while growing the others. You don't want to make a change that will scare off everybody who you have going regularly to your event. Guests. We need guests. A significant advantage of this year was the inclusion of Claudia Christian. In spite of the headaches that may have created, I believe that the name brand recognition that she afforded us and the advantages that having special events around her presence led to a lot of the success with regard to our increase in sales. We need guests with name brand recognition, even if it's only in niche markets, and we need them about 3 weeks before HonorCon 2016 kicked off. So we are already behind the power curve. I'd like to mention iHeartRadio here. About a month before the convention kicked off, I approached iHeartRadio to discuss the possibility of them supporting us, because I'm a firm believer in trying to find out how that process works, and I don't believe that you're any worse off if someone tells you no. I figured at worst, we didn't have the money to actually do anything, so I would at least get some information out of it. But the people at iHeartRadio were professional, and they have actually mentioned a few different things that we could possibly do to save money on the advertising side. They are anxious to work with us, and if you give me the go-ahead, I will begin delving into making this relationship a little bit more solid. One thing that they mentioned as far as advertising budget, which we're about to go into, is that what we may wish to do with our sponsors and with all the different gaming stores, etc., in the area, is that we can form a pool of advertising money between all of them and ourselves, which basically will allow us to cost share all of the advertising budget between us. The folks at iHeartRadio are perfectly happy to work with us on this, but it's not necessarily something we need them for. It is something that we need to consider as we move forward and talk about money. As far as budgeting goes, at a minimum, the Hootsuite system that I'm using requires $15 a month. It really is a no frills thing right now. It helps me schedule posts and advertising slots all the way out to infinity. However, again, costs $15 a month. If we want more advanced features, it costs way more a month. Advertising on most forms of media costs at a minimum $150 to $500 a month. And that's for calendar listings and very small back page advertising. Getting the word out there is pretty darned expensive. But where the finances are concerned, given that our convention has grown over 50% this year just in gross income, it seems that if I can get all the ticket sale information from previous HonorCons and produce a presentation that shows the change over time with regard to income, and if we could build a decent business plan, we might be able to actually get ourselves financing from a bank to meet our needs instead of relying on Martin's money as a backstop. We have a significant advantage in that we've got an event that we have not lost money on any of the years that it has been held. This has a lot of potential, and I think that we could produce a decent presentation, and if we could convince a bank fairly easily to bankroll us on this matter. That concludes my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is lazarusomega2000@gmail.com. That's LAZARUSOMEGA2000@gmail.com.